According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 18% of school-aged children aged 6 to 11 years were overweight in 2004. Part A, in a random sample of 90 school-aged children aged 6 to 11 years, what is the probability that at least 19% are overweight? For Part A, we want to find the probability that the sample proportion, or p-hat, is greater than or equal to 19%, or 0.19. Before we compute this probability, we have to check a few things. First, we have to check that the sample size is less than or equal to 5% of the population size. Our sample is 90, which is definitely less than or equal to 5% of the total population of children aged 6 through 11, so condition 1 is satisfied. Now we check the following. Now we have to check that NP times 1 minus P is greater than or equal to 10. N is the sample size, which is 90, and P is the population proportion, which is 18.8%. Now let's substitute these values. Type this in your calculator and you get approximately 13.74. And this is greater than or equal to 10. So condition 2 is satisfied. So because condition 2 is satisfied, this means that the distribution of the sample proportion is approximately normal. Now we can compute mu and sigma of p-hat. Mu of p-hat is equal to the population proportion, which is 18.8%, or 0.188. Now let's compute the standard deviation. P is 0.188, and N, the sample size, is 90. Type this in your calculator and round to 4 decimal places, and we get approximately 0.0412. I recommend that you draw a sketch, and now let's go to StatCrunch. Let's go to Stat, Calculators, Normal. We have that the mean is 0.188, so you will type that here. And we have that the standard deviation is 0.0412. We want to find the probability that p-hat is greater than or equal to 0.19. So we will select greater than or equal to, and then type 0.19 and press compute. Rounding to 4 decimal places, we get approximately 0.4806. Part B, suppose a random sample of 90 school-aged children aged 6 to 11 years results in 24 overweight children. What might you conclude? In Part B, we are not given a proportion nor a percentage. We are just told the number of overweight children. So before we can continue, we have to find p-hat. Remember that p-hat is the sample proportion and is x over n. X will be 24, and n is 90. Type this in your calculator and round to 4 decimal places, and we get approximately 0.2667. So for Part B, we want to find the probability that p-hat is greater than or equal to 0.2667. We have already checked that the sample size is less than or equal to 5% of the population size. We have already checked that NP times 1 minus P is greater than or equal to 10, so the distribution of the sample proportion is approximately normally distributed. Also, our sample size did not change. It is still 90, just like it was in Part A. So that means the mean and the standard deviation will be the same from Part A. You can draw a sketch if you want. And now let's go to StatCrunch to compute this probability. Let's go to Stat, Calculators, Normal. We have that the mean is 0.188. And the standard deviation is 0.0412. We want to find the probability that we have at least 19 overweight children, so we will use this one. And the proportion was 0.2667, and press compute. Rounding to 4 decimal places, we get 0.0281. This probability is less than 0.05. So if we see 24 overweight children in a sample of 90, we would conclude that this is an unusual event because the probability is less than 0.05.